You don't need to do anything wrong for people to dislike you. Sometimes, just doing the right thing, just showing up with light, confidence, and peace is enough to make others uncomfortable. Not because you hurt them, not because you took anything from them, but because your light shines in places where they hide their darkness. When you walk into a room with purpose, your presence can expose things others don't want to face. You didn't take their opportunities. You didn't block their growth. All you did was choose to become more. And that alone can stir quiet hate. Why? Because you remind them of who they could have been. Your discipline shows them their laziness. Your courage reflects their fear. Your progress whispers, "This could have been you." But instead of changing themselves, they change the way they look at you. Instead of learning from your strength, they find reasons to tear you down. They don't see your heart. They only see the results of your work. And those results remind them of everything they've avoided. You kept moving. You cried. You fought. You healed. And you grew. And some people can't stand to see that, because they remember you both started in the same place. Maybe you shared pain. Maybe you both came from broken homes, difficult pasts, or lonely nights. But what you did with that pain made all the difference. You rose. They stayed. You healed. They hid. You trusted God. They trusted excuses. Now, your life speaks a silent message every time you enter a room. Your peace speaks louder than your words. Your growth becomes a mirror, showing others the time they wasted, the chances they missed. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. Every step you take forward reminds them of how long they've been stuck. And the truth, it hurts. But instead of letting that truth guide them to healing, they let it turn into jealousy, into resentment, into silent hate. They may never say it out loud. They may never show it in public. But inside, their hearts are twisted, not because of you, but because of what they fear and what they don't understand. They don't understand how you keep standing after every fall. They don't understand how you keep forgiving those who tried to break you. They don't understand how you stay kind in a world that gave you every reason to be bitter. So, instead of admiring you, they attack, not always with words, but with silence, with distance, with cold stares and sudden absence. But don't let it change you. Don't lower your light just because others can't handle its brightness. Don't hide your gifts just because they make someone else feel small. Don't apologize for becoming more. God didn't raise you to shrink. You weren't given strength so you could stay quiet. You weren't brought this far to start walking on eggshells around people who haven't grown. Your presence will disturb those who gave up. Your growth will offend those who stayed behind. Your boldness will shake the ones who chose fear. Your success will bother those who only ever wanted you to survive, not thrive. But let them feel what they feel. You keep going, because your life is not background noise. It's not made to keep others comfortable. It's made to speak truth. They didn't see you cry into your pillow. They didn't see you praying alone when no one believed in you. They don't feel the weight you carry just to keep standing. So if they hate the crown you wear today, let them. They didn't see the price you paid to earn it. They didn't fight the battles you fought. They didn't bleed in silence or keep faith when everything fell apart. You don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself. If your light bothers them, that's between them and their own shadows. If your progress makes them uncomfortable, it's because they knew, deep down, they had the same chances but let fear win. But you didn't, and you won't. Because you're not walking in pride. You're walking in purpose. And when people hate you for that, you don't fight back. You don't explain yourself. You don't match their bitterness. You just keep shining. Because your light was never made to blend in. It was made to lead. Let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them stare. Your reward doesn't come from their approval. It comes from your obedience. Some people don't hate you for your mistakes. They hate you for your victories. The places they stumbled. You stood. The doors that closed on them, you walked through. And instead of asking you how you did it, they choose bitterness. That's what envy does. It doesn't clap when you win. It doesn't cheer when you rise. It watches in silence, secretly hoping you fall. But you didn't grow for their applause. You grew because you made a decision, not to stay stuck, not to be a victim, not to let your past write your future. You chose freedom, and that choice cost you something. It cost you comfort. It cost you relationships. And it exposed who was never really for you. Now you see it. Some people never expected you to rise. Some hoped you'd stay small. Your strength makes their excuses weaker. Your consistency shows their delay. Your joy makes their bitterness unbearable. That's why hate doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes in silence, in the way they stop calling, in the way your name makes rooms go quiet. That's not coincidence. That's quiet hate. But remember this. Their hate is not a sign of your weakness. It's a sign of their wounds. Don't take it personally when they walk away. Don't shrink to make them feel tall. Don't dim your light for their comfort. If God gave you a light, let it shine, even if it blinds those who've chosen the dark, because there will always be people watching you, not to support you, but to find a reason to criticize. Let them watch. You keep climbing. You keep becoming, because your purpose is bigger than their opinions. There is a weight you carry that no one sees. The pressure to stay strong, the pressure to keep going, the pressure to rise even when everything in you wants to rest. That pressure has built your character. It has shaped your focus. It has revealed your strength. So if they hate you now, let them, because they didn't walk through the fire with you. They didn't carry the burden you carried. They didn't stay faithful when everything was falling apart. You earned the strength you have today, and if your wins make them uncomfortable, that's not your fault. They had the same opportunities, but they let fear speak louder than faith. They let excuses become their identity. You didn't. You chose purpose. And when someone walks in purpose, people who live in fear start to feel exposed. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your life reminds them of everything they chose not to become. You're not trying to make anyone feel small. You're just being who you were called to be. But that alone is enough to rattle insecure hearts. You see, when you stop chasing approval, when you stop needing applause to feel worthy, you begin to walk in a freedom that shakes the world around you. People will say you've changed, and you have. You've stopped trying to please everyone. You've stopped explaining your every move. You've stopped asking for permission to grow, and that makes people nervous, because your growth means they can't control you anymore. Your confidence means they can't guilt you into staying small. You stopped performing. You stopped proving. You stopped pouring into people who only loved the broken version of you. Now, you're walking in peace. You're walking with clarity. You're walking with direction. And some people won't know how to handle that. Not everyone will be happy for you. Some will be confused. Some will call you distant. Some will whisper that you're different. But you are. You've grown. You've healed. You've learned what it means to protect your peace and honor your calling. And some people can't handle that kind of growth. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you stopped doing what kept them comfortable. You stopped giving unlimited access to people who only took. You stopped answering every call. You stopped saying yes when your soul was saying no. And when you drew that line, they changed. Their tone shifted. Their support faded. Their kindness turned cold. But that's not your loss. That's your lesson. When people disappear after you set a boundary, they were never really for you. They were for what you did for them. They loved your help. They loved your service. They loved your sacrifices. But real love doesn't leave when you protect yourself. Real love adjusts. Real love grows with you. Fake love. Fake love throws tantrums. Fake love calls you selfish. Fake love disappears when it loses control. But you are not here to be used. You were not born to be drained. You are not someone's emergency escape, emotional sponge, or backup plan. You are not responsible for keeping everyone else together while you fall apart. You are not a resource. You are a person. So when you decide to rest, let them call you lazy. When you decide to heal, let them call you selfish. When you choose to say no, let them call you different. You are not cruel. You are courageous. It takes courage to stop allowing people to walk over you. It takes strength to stop showing up for those who never showed up for you. It takes wisdom to stop giving energy to relationships built on one-sided loyalty. You weren't created to be a crutch. You weren't called to be a cushion for others' irresponsibility. You weren't meant to carry burdens that were never yours. And when you finally realize that, don't be surprised if faces start fading away. Don't be shocked when some people turn cold. Don't panic when love turns into silence. That's not rejection. That's revelation. God will allow people to reveal who they are when your life shifts. Because not everyone who started with you was meant to stay with you. Some people were seasonal. Some people were lessons. And some were simply not ready for where you're going. So let them go. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. Let them label you. Because the truth stands, even when the lies are loud. And your truth is this. You are not wrong for choosing yourself. You are not wrong for saying no. You are not wrong for growing. You were never supposed to stay stuck. You were never meant to stay small. The people who can't handle your healing were never meant for your future. They were only holding on to your past. Let them talk. Let them go. and walk forward with peace. Some of the hardest moments in life don't come with loud conflict. They come with quiet tension. They come when someone you thought would walk with you suddenly disappears. You'll feel the shift. You'll notice the silence, and you'll wonder, what did I do? But sometimes, it's not what you did. It's what you became. You started shining. You started believing. You started changing. And some people didn't grow with you. Your success will not always be celebrated. Your progress will not always be clapped for. Sometimes, it'll be met with silence, with distance, with cold smiles and small talk. Because growth separates, not to divide, but to define. And the truth is, when you begin to rise, you become a reflection. Your healing shows others their wounds. Your progress reveals their delay. Your purpose uncovers their distractions. And that makes some people bitter not because of you, but because of what they never dared to do. So keep going. Keep growing. Because what's ahead of you is far more important than the whispers behind you. You don't need to explain your peace. You don't need to apologize for your strength. You don't need to make your growth easier for others to accept. What God is doing in your life is not meant to make others feel comfortable. It's meant to bring Him glory. And if someone can't handle your transformation, if they feel offended by your healing, then they were never meant to walk beside you in the next chapter. You don't owe them comfort. You don't owe them an explanation. You owe it to yourself to keep moving forward. Some people will never celebrate you, not because they don't see your progress, but because your progress reminds them of everything they avoided. You became the mirror they didn't want to look into. Your faithfulness made their excuses harder to believe. Your progress made their comfort zones feel smaller. But you didn't rise to make them feel worse. You rose because you chose to. You made a decision to stop living in survival mode. You decided to grow even when no one was clapping. You stood back up when life tried to break you. That kind of growth doesn't go unnoticed. There are people watching you, not to learn, not to celebrate, but to measure you. They're keeping score. They're waiting for a mistake. They're hoping you trip, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you stopped needing them to feel strong. When you stop playing small, when you stop asking for permission, when you stop explaining your every move, you become a threat to people who built their identity on controlling others. You see, some people only feel valuable when they're needed. They feel powerful when you rely on them. They feel secure when your decisions are shaped by their opinions. But when you stop leaning on them, when you stop seeking their approval, they feel lost. Because they thought they were your compass. They thought they were your guide. They thought they were your source. But they were never your source. God was. And when you start walking in confidence, not arrogance, not pride, but quiet, unshakable confidence, it shakes the foundation they built on. You no longer ask, do they like me? Do they support me? Do they understand me? No. You just keep walking. Even if no one claps, even if no one agrees, even if no one stands beside you. Because your purpose isn't built on popularity. It's built on calling. And calling doesn't need applause. In fact, the moment you stop chasing validation, that's when the real growth begins. That's when you stop looking around and start looking within. That's when you realize your value doesn't come from acceptance. It comes from alignment. And that shift, it threatens the people still performing. They don't know how to handle someone who is free. So instead of being inspired, they get angry. Instead of growing with you, they try to pull you back. They'll call you prideful. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become distant. But what they're really saying is, I don't know how to control you anymore. And that's okay. You weren't created to live under their expectations. You weren't called to be small for their comfort. You've learned the difference between pleasing people and obeying your purpose. And once you've tasted that freedom, you can't go back. Not everyone will understand. Some people who once praised you will now resent you. Some who once called you humble will now whisper that you've become too much. But the truth is, you've just grown. You've healed. You've stopped seeking identity in broken places. And you've started standing on your own 2 feet. And not everyone will clap for that. Some people secretly hope you stay the same forever. Not because they love who you are, but because your growth makes them feel left behind. When you don't need their validation, you become unpredictable. You become untouchable in the best way. Their silence doesn't shake you. Their opinions don't move you. Their disapproval doesn't stop you. Because now, you've stopped dancing for their applause. And that's where true strength begins. Not in rebellion, but in quiet resolve. Not in shouting, but in peaceful direction. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just done performing. You've stopped trying to impress people who never clap from the heart. You've stopped looking for love that only showed up when you were giving. Some people secretly hate you now, not because you wronged them, but because you no longer serve their ego. They can't use your insecurity to feed their pride. They can't make you feel small to feel big themselves. And that loss of control, it scares them. But let it go. You were never meant to live under their expectations. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need every hand clapping. You don't need constant affirmation. Because when you walk in purpose, the right people will find you, and the wrong ones will reveal themselves. Sometimes, the clearest sign you're on the right path is the silence of those who once claimed to support you. So don't fear the silence. Don't chase the ones who pulled away. Don't explain your growth to people who don't want to understand. You weren't built to fit in. You were built to stand out. You were built to rise, to break chains, to walk boldly, to shine brightly. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. Because at the end of the day, it's not their opinions that define you. It's your purpose that carries you. And you were made for more than their comfort zones. Some people will try to shrink you just because your light is too bright for the shadows they're used to. But don't dim yourself to make others feel safe. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand out. And standing out isn't about being loud or flashy. It's about walking in quiet confidence, knowing who you are, knowing what you carry, and knowing who sent you. You didn't come this far to hide. You didn't survive all that pain just to go back to pleasing people. You didn't fight through your darkest nights to live in someone else's comfort zone. You have something rare now. You have clarity. You have peace. You have purpose. And people who are still stuck in confusion won't always receive that well. Your peace can irritate their chaos. Your boundaries can challenge their entitlement. Your growth can highlight their stagnation. But don't let that stop you. You are not obligated to stay the same, so others don't feel left behind. You are not selfish for wanting better. You are not arrogant for refusing to be used. You are evolving, and not everyone will clap for that. But that's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to make everyone understand your journey. Your job is to keep walking it with courage, even when the road gets quiet, even when old friends fall away, even when support fades, even when you feel alone. Because you're not really alone. Every time someone walked out, God stayed. Every time a door closed, God prepared a better one. And every time you felt abandoned, you were actually being protected. Protected from fake love. Protected from manipulation. Protected from people who only wanted your presence, but not your peace. You're learning now that silence is not rejection, it's redirection. That distance is not always a loss, it's often a blessing. That loneliness is not a punishment, it's preparation. You're being prepared for something greater, something deeper, something more aligned. And that kind of preparation often requires separation. God separates you not to isolate you, but to elevate you. Because not everyone can go where you're going. Not everyone can breathe the air of your next level. Not everyone can handle the weight of your calling. Some people were only meant to walk with the version of you that didn't know better. The version that stayed silent. The version that overgave. The version that kept breaking just to keep the peace. But that version is gone now. Now, you've awakened. Now, you've healed. Now, you've seen what you deserve, and there's no going back to less. There's no shrinking back to please people. There's no returning to environments that drained you. There's no apologizing for choosing peace over popularity. You've worked too hard to get here. You've cried too many tears. You've prayed through too many nights. And now you finally see, not everyone ignoring you is your enemy. Sometimes, it's divine protection in disguise. The people who ignored your pain, who were silent when you needed them, who disappeared when life got heavy, they weren't rejecting you. They were revealing themselves. Because love doesn't leave when things get hard. Real connection doesn't vanish when you're in need. True loyalty doesn't fade in the face of your boundaries. So let them go. Let them keep their silence. Let them live with their misunderstandings. Let them sit with their assumptions. You don't need to defend yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to beg for a seat at tables that were never meant for you. You don't have to explain your boundaries to people who benefited from your lack of them. You are not obligated to carry guilt for choosing growth. Sometimes growth is quiet. Sometimes growth is lonely. Sometimes growth is misunderstood. But it is still growth. And every step you take, even in silence, is building something stronger inside you. You're becoming whole. You're becoming wise. You're becoming focused. And in that process, your circle will change. The more you value peace, the more you'll attract people who protect it. The more you honor your time, The more you'll lose people who only wanted to waste it, the more you stand in truth. The more lies will fall away. Let them fall. Because when you stop chasing people, you make space for the right ones to find you. The ones who love without strings. The ones who see your worth without needing your pain. The ones who respect your boundaries without making you feel guilty. You don't have to earn love by breaking yourself anymore. You don't have to sacrifice your peace for the sake of connection. The right people will honor your healing. They'll celebrate your growth. They'll walk with you even when you say no. That's what you deserve. And it starts by believing that you're worthy of it. So if someone has ignored you, if someone disappeared when you stopped giving, if someone changed when you started growing, let that be your confirmation, not your confusion. You did nothing wrong. You simply stopped making yourself small for the sake of people who never planned to grow with you. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You're no longer surviving. You're thriving. You're no longer begging. You're building. You're no longer chasing. You're choosing. And the ones meant for your future won't ask you to shrink for their comfort. They'll grow with you. You've come too far to question your worth now. You've healed too much to go back to breaking just to belong. You've grown too deeply to fit into the shallow spaces you used to tolerate. This new version of you is no accident. It's the result of every tear you cried. Every night you stayed strong. Every moment you chose faith over fear. So don't you dare look back. The ones who ignored you, the ones who doubted you, the ones who silently watched while you struggled. They are not your finish line. You are not defined by who walked away. You are not held back by who didn't believe. You are not made less by who couldn't love you where you were. You are proof that silence can't stop purpose. That rejection doesn't cancel destiny. That being overlooked doesn't mean you were unworthy. It just means you were being hidden for the right time. And that time is now. Now is the season you rise. Not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but because it's who you are now. You are no longer the version of yourself who needed approval to breathe. You are no longer the person who questioned your voice, your value, your vision. You've walked through the fire, and now you carry the flame. You don't need to convince people to see you anymore. You've learned to see yourself. You've learned to hear your own voice. You've learned to trust your own heart. And that's dangerous to those who once relied on your insecurity. Now they can't manipulate you. Now they can't guilt you into staying small. Now they can't feed off your confusion because you found clarity. You've learned that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned. That being misunderstood doesn't mean being wrong. That walking away doesn't make you the villain. It makes you the survivor. You chose healing, even when it hurt. You chose growth, even when it was lonely. You chose peace, even when it cost you connection. And now you wear that peace like armor. You walk with it. You speak with it. You lead with it. Some will still try to shame you for it. They'll call you cold because you set boundaries. They'll say you changed because you stopped performing. They'll whisper that you've forgotten where you came from because you refuse to stay stuck where you used to be. Let them whisper. Their noise can't drown out your purpose. Their opinions don't pay your peace. Their silence is not your loss. It's their missed opportunity to witness your breakthrough. You see, when someone ignores you, when they overlook your worth, when they withdraw their support, the moment you rise, they're not showing you your limits. They're showing you theirs. And that's okay. Not everyone was built to go where you're going. Not everyone is ready for the level you're stepping into. Not everyone can handle the version of you that no longer settles. So stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for your joy. Stop softening your strength. Stop explaining your peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing wholeness. You don't have to justify your growth to those who refuse to grow with you. Some will resent your strength because they're still addicted to weakness. Some will mock your progress because they're still stuck in excuses. Some will distance themselves, not because you push them away, but because your truth exposed their comfort. Let them leave, because as they walk out, clarity walks in. As they fall away, alignment steps up. As they go silent, your soul finally speaks loud enough for you to hear. You'll realize that what you lost wasn't love. It was attachment. It was habit. It was a version of you that didn't know how powerful you really were. Now you know. Now you see. Now you walk in light. You walk with boldness, not because you're better, but because you've been broken and still chose to believe again. You walk with purpose, not because it's easy, but because you finally understand what's worth fighting for. You walk with peace, not because everyone clapped for your healing, but because you stopped waiting for applause. You are walking proof that silence doesn't define you. That rejection doesn't destroy you. That being ignored doesn't mean you're invisible. It means you're unstoppable. Because the greatest growth often happens in the quiet, when no one sees, when no one celebrates, when no one claps. But God sees, He celebrates, He claps, and He calls you forward. So keep walking.
Even if they talk,
Even if they stare. Even if they try to remind you of who you used to be. You're not that person anymore. You're not someone who needs constant validation. You're not someone who overgives just to be liked. You're not someone who breaks just to keep the peace. You've outgrown the places that required you to be less. You've outgrown the roles that asked you to shrink. You've outgrown the mindset that said survival was enough. Now you're here to live, to lead, to love without begging, to speak without fear, to grow without guilt. And if that unsettles some people, let it, because your healing is not up for debate. Your peace is not on trial. Your growth is not for their approval. You are not who they remember. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. So keep becoming, keep rising, keep walking, even if they don't see it, even if they never say a word, even if their silence gets louder, your purpose will speak louder still.